their families and carers. That was our prime responsibility, and certainly we have to do it within a sustainable funding model. We're very proud that we as a Liberal National Government have economic management as the core of what we do, and we need to manage our budget in tight and challenging times, that we can provide the services needed and we can fund things like disability care, but we can do it in a responsible way that's sustainable.
Will you need to raise a new levy or taxes can $2.5 billion?
We expect that our current financial situation, with the assistance through the payments to Victoria through the new Medicare levy, that we believe we can find the funding concerned. But this will require challenges for our budget, and the Victorian budget is a tight budget in challenging economic times, but we have as our core good, sound economic management, and we believe that with the existing funding we provide in disability services, about $1.5, $1.6 billion, ramping that up to 2.5 by 2019, will be achievable with the assistance through the Medicare levy rebates to Victoria. Well, again, we stand in broad principle that we support improved educational outcomes. We support a better educational system, and we're happy to continue bilateral negotiations, discussions with the federal government to try and achieve a better funding model and a better outcome for education. But we will ensure that in Victoria that there is no school disadvantaged, no child disadvantaged, and no family disadvantaged in those negotiations. Well, we have the same objectives, and what we want to do is work bilaterally in a cooperative way to try and get the challenging economic times for the state of Victoria. We don't have the growth taxes that our federal counterparts have, and so therefore it is more difficult for us to maintain our AAA credit rating, to maintain our strength of our economy and fund key infrastructure like East-West Tunnel, East-West Link, Metro Tunnel and Port of Hastings, as well as fund these important services. So it's a balancing act that we believe we're up to, but it certainly takes a lot of work.
The Minister for Agriculture will address this matter in more detail later today, but can I just say, obviously any animal cruelty is repulsive to all of us. It's also repulsive to this industry. I know from my own discussions with industry that people who raise these animals don't want to see them treated in a cruel way, and so I very much welcome the voluntary suspension that industry has put in place for exports to Egypt. No, we put the right policies in place arising out of some examples of animal cruelty that we are now able to do tracking and tracing of animals as they move overseas. We have received this footage and the Minister for Agriculture will be in a position to deal with it in detail, but I am pleased to see that there's been a voluntary suspension from industry. This is a complex issue. Changes its way of taking the best of advice and acting on it. We did take the best of advice from Angus Houston's team. I think it's to be deeply regretted that we haven't been able to put all of that in place because of the negativity we've seen on the other side of Parliament. I do note that the Leader of the Opposition has now significantly stepped away from his commitment to stop the boats. I think that's a recognition of just how complex an area this is. We are always guided by the Houston report. They're through the federal parliament, and I think that shows, unfortunately, that negativity costs and negativity does make a difference in the real world. So we would enact them, and we'll always be guided by the best of advice for the future. There's absolutely no evidence of that, no, and I do note that the Leader of the Opposition has stepped significantly away from his stated commitment to stop the boats. that's a matter for the pre-selection processes of the relevant political party. But we are very committed to keeping the Great Barrier Reef as the wonderful heritage area for the world that it is and for our nation. Very recently, indeed in the last couple of weeks, I announced a $200 million reef rescue commitment. That's building on a past commitment, renewing it for the future. It's about working with farmers in a way that increases their productivity but also decreases the amount of runoff that then goes into the waters of the Great Barrier Reef. So we are very committed and we'll keep pursuing those kinds of commitments for the future. We're actually having a conversation about this just before. Yes, I am a supporter of CCTV, and the federal government has got a community safety program where one of the things that communities can put in applications for is the further rollout of CCTV. Now, no one thing fixes every issue, but I do believe CCTV has a role to play in community safety, and that's why we support it through federal government money and will continue to do so.
This is an issue for the Melbourne Airport Corporation, and I would urge them to sit down and resolve this issue with the taxi drivers and taxi operators. What we don't want is taxi drivers protesting, interrupting people going about, getting on and off airplanes and meeting friends and relatives. So I'd ask the taxi drivers to show some common sense, and I would ask them to sit down with the airport operators and get a speedy resolution to what is a dispute that should be resolved very quickly. Well, we believe that the Taxi Directorate is the best one to give us the advice on that. They talk regularly with taxi operators and taxi drivers. We are very much in favour of actions that can make it safer for taxi drivers, and if taxi drivers want more protection, then there's the opportunities for them to introduce that.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's the Victorian Premier, Denis Napthine, wrapping up a press conference there. He was essentially signing off on the NDIS, which happened just a short